It is tough to put into words how much Jason Kelce truly meant to the city of Philadelphia. He's an all-time great athlete, an all-time great human being, and an all-time great speech giver. I'm jumping on the mic immediately following the official announcement from Jason Kelce saying that he will be walking away from the game of football to pursue his post-career options as far as media and being with his family. It's tough to put into words exactly the feelings that I have right now. That I'm unexpected. I was fully mentally prepared. Saw the tweets this morning. I think we all knew this was coming. Dating back to last year, the expectation was that this would be Jason Kelce's last year playing football. But the reality of it's happening is hitting a little deeper. And the biggest reason for that is exactly everything that he encapsulates. That when you watch that speech, Jason Kelce just broke down what it's like to be representing Philadelphia in a way that very few ever can. He may truly understand Philadelphia fans, Eagles fans, more than any player that we've ever seen. The whole just discussing how much you control the narrative, how much what it means to represent why people wear their emotions on the sleeve the way they did. It truly was special to just take that in. And I did just want to take a couple moments to reflect on what Jason Kelce has meant to this franchise, what he means from a football standpoint, and what as a human being he has done for this city. I mean, this is a guy who's lived with more transparency than we've seen. We're talking about him putting his life together on a documentary. We're talking about him hosting the podcast on a week by week basis, giving some ins and outs in a way that we've very rarely seen. And for him to do it at a level with such intelligence, with such savvy as far as the way he presents itself, just such realness about him that there's no faking to Jason Kelce. He just ended that speech by shaking the hands and hugging every writer, every press member, every person that was in that room was how Jason Kelce just did that. And there are so many fond memories. He does embody Philadelphia. This is a guy who just spoke about his underdog outlook, who went from being a 6th-round pick to a 6-time All-Pro. That is Jason Kelce. This is a guy that was a walk-on in college as a fullback and has turned himself into a future Hall of Famer center, an all-time great center, a guy that, think about, as a center, as an offensive lineman, is one of the most recognizable faces in the sport of football. Think about how wild that is. And the impact on the field speaks for itself. The all pros, the never missing a game throughout his entire career, how healthy he was, leading things like the tush push, being a leader on this team from a locker room standpoint. You felt the impact of when he was in there. So much of the team's success throughout the years does not happen without Jason Kelce being the vocal leader that he is, being the guy that is capable of keeping everyone up front, whether it's Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz, Nick Foles, you name them. And there were so many moments that I do want to highlight about that. That speaking a little bit about some of the clips, I just want to play a couple here. So I'll start off with the official retirement, which certainly tugged at the heartstrings here.
So this all brings us here to today, where I announce that I am retiring. Where I announce I am retiring from the NFL after 13 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles.
It was clear the emotions were high from the second that he stepped down at that desk, that he struggled to fully just. It's amazing the way that he just portrayed himself and opened him up. That this is now 2 all-time speeches that Jason Kelce has allowed. And for every athlete coming to Philadelphia, that should be homework before you ever step on the field. Told stories about Zach Ertz missing a block against Vontaze Burfict, looking scared, and how much he was criticized for fans. And that directly led to the next week, Zach Ertz playing with a mentality that he could not be taken down, taking 3 guys to tackle him, and how fondly he is remembered from that moment on because of that. He spoke about some of the options going through, gave some shout outs to Nick Foles. I did want to play this clip as well, which was probably the funniest moment of the entire exchange.
I won't forget Nick Foles having the game of his life on the biggest stage possible. And the biggest dick on the team going up to Doug Peterson and asking for the Philly special. And Doug Peterson having the biggest balls in the stadium. Say, yeah, let's do it.
He is a guy that is directly responsible for the Super Bowl success, a guy who played a part in the greatest moment in Eagles franchise history, a guy that led the charge in so many situations, that is a model of individual and team success in a way that very few ever can be. That Jason Kelce mentioned it was a goal of his to play for one team throughout his entire career. And damn it, he accomplished that because there's no other city that was a match made in heaven like Philadelphia and Jason Kelce. He also did speak on that Chip Kelly era in high regard, speaking about how he thought that was going to change football. A little bit funny looking back now, but just that whole full circle moment of being able to reflect on all the different stages of Philadelphia football that Jason Kelce lived through and led himself is really special. He talked about the snowball, shouted that out as the most fun game of football he ever played. When LaShawn McCoy absolutely took over, was running all over the place against the Detroit Lions. One of my favorite games that I've ever watched and one that sticks in my memory. And very cool to see that he has a similar experience from being on the court. It's amazing to talk about the things that he did and just to play the initial sit down, which first off, just awesome that he's there in the cutoff, looking exactly as expected. And this right from the opening whistle, you see it.
We'll see how long this lasts. Not a good start. There you go.
The rawness and the openness that he just put on full display for everyone to see should not be taken for granted. That it is not easy for any person, let alone a burly 300-pound football player, to be able to stare down the media members, stare down the cameras, and really open up in the way that he just did. That Jason Kelce left no stone unturned when it talks about what Philadelphia meant for him, what representing the Eagles meant for him, and just the overall career path that he took us down. We're talking about him shouting out every person that has helped him. 3 Jeff Stoutland quotes, talking about how much football has meant from him from a human being standpoint, all the way to the family side of things, him meeting his wife, all these stories. I cannot overstate how great that speech just was, and I cannot overstate how much that Jason Kelce deserves to mean to Philadelphia. That there may not be another athlete who gets it the way that Jason Kelce gets it. And yes, there are other examples. Bryce Harper is one that pops into mind. That is a guy who gets it, who plays hard, represents the city, does everything that he needs to do, but he's not Jason Kelce. That this ability to play both sides in a way that he has, as far as having a foot dipped in the media, being an elite player on the field, and just the regular spots of calling into the radio, addressing things, taking things head on, taking the responsibility, being a leader in the public and private standpoint is just amazing. And I just can't get my head around how cool it was to experience the entire career here. That I truly feel there is no other location in which Jason Kelce would be appreciated in the way he is here. And there's no other city that would have welcomed Jason Kelce the way that Philadelphia did. That the way that he truly embodied the underdog mentality, truly was this guy who has overstated what he probably should have or outplayed what the expectations were on a year in and year out standpoint. He even went as far as to dip into the point in time in which things weren't going so hot for Jason Kelce in an Eagles uniform. That there was the speculation of, is it time to move on from Kelce? Is his career winding down? He's getting holding penalties. He's getting beat, just bull rushed through in a way that was really concerning only a couple years ago. And lo and behold, we had 6 all-pro years after the fact. That this coming after Jeff Stoutland came here and how much all that credit was. So to Jason Kelce, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to watch you on the field all these years. Thank you for encapsulating Philadelphia in a way that very few ever could. Thank you for leading by example and leading with your vocals, from being a guy not afraid to express it outward and proving it in the way that he did show it on the field, leading but from the front and letting everyone know in the process. There will never be another Jason Kelce. For all the years that there will be Eagles football, we may never find a guy to be so relatable, so elite, and just the overall complete package in the way he showed. There is plenty still in store for Jason Kelce. We're going to be seeing plenty of him on the mics, whether it is in the New Heights podcast, whether it is calling football games, as I'm sure those are conversations in the works. But the bottom line is rest easy, ride off in the sunset, don't overdo it, and thank you for all that you've given us. 2 all-time great speeches, 13 terrific seasons, 1 Super Bowl ring that has never been had before, and just sharing stories of everything that this meant. Shout out to Jason Kelce for doing it with class every step of the way. The city will not be the same without you on the football field, but I am grateful just to have taken in these moments in all these years. Appreciate you guys for tuning into this. I know it's a little different from my usual content on here, but this was something that I'm surprised to see how hard it hit me. To see him sitting up there, this was something that I did not expect. I thought I was fully mentally ready from, the opening tweets, knowing that this was coming down, knowing that you don't call a press conference to announce you're coming back. But then actually hearing it, actually listening to him opening up is something that hit me. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts on Jason Kelce in the comments. I do want to hear those lovely soliloquies. Let them rip. Let me hear them. I want to hear all the words that he can give. I'm sure you can do just as good, if not better of a job as I can, as I still feel a little in my feels about this one. So appreciate you guys for tuning into this. Appreciate Jason Kelce for being who he is, leading the way he has, and representing the Philadelphia Eagles in a way that very few can. And I'll be back next time right here on Pick Swap Media.